has been released from a on this Thursday. We're staying on top of breaking news. This just into the newsroom. Phoenix Mercury star Britney Griner has been released from a Russian prison camp today as part of a prisoner swap with Russia. We're told that this is for arms dealer W.N.B.A. This is someone who has been in the news a lot. There was a lot of talk about swapping him for Britney Griner. That's according to a U.S. official who spoke to CNN.
It does beg the question, though, about Paul Whelan. And I'm looking, we're going through all the information. This is just coming in to our newsroom, and this will be controversial because the heavy price. It does leave behind an American who's been jailed there, that would be Paul Whelan, for nearly 4 years. I'm sure we'll be hearing from his family. But again, Griner, as you know, is a two-time Olympic gold medalist. She's been there for months on drug charges, coming through security there back in February and caught with cannabis in a vaping cartridge. And that is why all of this has happened. It's why she was taken just weeks ago, a little more than a week ago, to that prison camp in Russia.
Yeah, she was moved to that penal colony there. She's been in custody for almost 10 months, if you can believe it. It was back on February 17th that she was arrested there and detained at the airport. Of course, we saw her trial. She was later sentenced to 9 years in prison. And as Kaylee mentioned, recently transferred to that prison camp. But as we're getting reporting in real time, she has been released as part of a prisoner swap with Russia. But you do bring up a good point about Paul Whelan. We still are working to figure out what this could possibly mean for him.
And our Emilio Fabiano is going to be working on this. I just want to add this as well, because again, I'm reading the wire as it's coming through from the Associated Press. The swap confirmed again by U.S. officials, as you mentioned, Nick, with direct knowledge, though, of the negotiations, who were not authorized to publicly discuss the deal, quote, before a White House announcement, and did speak on condition of anonymity.
Wow, unexpected news this morning. Britney Griner has been released from a Russian prison after being detained for 10 months on a drug charge. Britney was found with a vape pen that contained marijuana in it, which is adamantly illegal in Russia, and apparently comes with a hefty sentencing. When she was originally detained, many thought it would be very short term. So when she was sentenced to 9.5 years in prison, it took a lot of people by surprise, especially Britney and her wife. So President Biden has announced this morning that moments ago he had spoken to Britney Griner. She was safe, she was on a plane, and she was on her way home. I mean, this is absolutely great news, but it was very shocking to most because it seemed like Britney would never get out of the Russian prison. Biden did make a promise that he would get her out, and I guess he fulfilled that promise. Britney was one of 2 Americans that he was trying to have released, but unfortunately, Russia was only willing to do a 1-for-1 swap. So Britney was released in exchange for a convicted arms dealer named W.N.B.A. Biden had been negotiating with Putin for several months for the release of Britney Griner, and he made it happen. Hey, what can I say? The Washington Press has announced that on Thursday, after 10 months of captivity, President Biden agreed to a swap for W.N.B.A., an imprisoned Russian arms dealer known as the Merchant of Death, the president said. On Thursday morning, Mr. Biden tweeted a picture of himself and Cheryl Griner, which is the wife of Britney Griner, in the Oval Office. Paul Whelan, another American-held prisoner, was not released on Thursday despite months of efforts by U.S. diplomats to include him as part of the deal with the Russians for the exchange with Mr. Bout. Ms. Griner, an all-star center with the W.N.B.A's Phoenix Mercury and a 2-time Olympic medalist, again had been serving a 9-year prison sentence that put her at the center of a fraught geopolitical showdown between Washington and Moscow. In February, she was stopped at an airport near Moscow after customs officials found 2 vape cartridges containing hashish oil in her luggage, meaning THC. They found some marijuana in her luggage in a vape pen. Her case became an international case because she was seen as a hostage being held by President Vladimir Putin's government, as Russia was subjected to a broad swath of international sanctions in response to its invasion of Ukraine a week after her arrest. The Biden Efforts to negotiate a prisoner swap with Russia for her and Mr. Whelan had stalled for months as she was sent to a penal colony outside of Moscow. Miss Griner was described by one of her lawyers this fall as struggling emotionally and increasingly worried that she would not be free. She was permitted outside once a day to walk an hour in a small courtyard, according to her lawyer, and otherwise confined to a cramped cell with 2 cellmates. She slept on a specially elongated bed to accommodate her 6'9" frame. This woman was 6'9" and played in the W.N.B.A. What I am most happy for is that she has finally been released for something that would have been very minor within the United States of America. I will say that we have to be very, very careful to understand international laws when we are traveling abroad, so that we don't end up in situations like this. Lastly, I want to state that for the manosphere that was so diligent in downing Britney Griner and saying that she got what she deserved and saying that she was sentenced to a just sentence for literally a couple vape marijuana pens, the same ones who were whining and crying for the last 20 years that black men were being sentenced unfairly for having small amounts of crack rock. You know, the same ones who said Biden locked their daddies up back in the 1990s with his crime bill, even though their daddies was taking over entire communities, taking people's houses, turning it into drug spots, having dope dates, as they would call them, with children's mothers right in the same homes as the children, sometimes in front of the children, when they knew that these mothers were heavily addicted to drugs, but they didn't care. The same men who turned neighborhoods into complete war zones. And all these men on the manosphere, including Boyce Watkins, O'Shea Duke Jackson, Phil from the African diaspora, and all the other bobbleheaded goof troops. The thing is, you guys want black women to stand beside you, marching, protesting, screaming with our horns rioting, getting pepper spray, getting dogs put on us, getting sprayed down with water hoses, in our Sunday's best, and go to bat for you, being your rib cage, your backbone, your right shoulder, your left shoulder, your kneecaps, and you want black women to demand that you never be held accountable, never be charged for a crime that you actually are committing, but you had the audacity to get on Beyonce's internet and cheer and applaud for Britney Griner being sentenced to 9 years in prison for a damn vape pen with marijuana in it. Yeah, that was when I was absolutely certain that I would never march, never hold up a sign, never donate to a cause, never even make a call for justice when it comes to y'all. Because y'all are the biggest coons and hypocrites, as well as bootlickers, that I have ever came across in my entire life. Black women, it is very important to know thy enemy and move accordingly. Congratulations to Britney Griner for her release. I wish nothing but the best for her. And it's pretty clear that these men were upset with her because she wasn't an option for them because she's a lesbian woman. She don't want y'all. That's why y'all mad.